Meanwhile, somewhere in a North American strip club.
A 1, 2, 3, 4.
Hello and welcome to another episode of A Very Odd Caster, broadcast to you live from Caster's Pub. Excuse me 1 minute. I have to speak with this guy at the bar. Leo, what you drinking?
Hey, Caster. I'll take the usual. You know, I'm a man who likes his bush.
Well, that's a surplus of information. So, how's everything going?
Yeah, I don't know, Caster. Today's been a rough day. You know, on my way to work, this squirrel ran out in front of my car.
Oh, gee, poor squirrel.
No, I didn't hit it. I swerved off the road and ran over an old lady. I'm just busting your balls.
Well, so how's everything going at home?
You know, my old lady just won't give me a break. She's always got her foot halfway up my ass.
Ooh, well, now there's an image.
Yeah, well, you know what they say. Women, you can't live with them, you can't live around them.
Sorry to hear about that, but you know, we've got plenty of women around here.
It's true, but most of them have more facial hair than me.
So have you been coming up here for trivia night? You know, last week we did the special trivia on the 100 greatest films of all time. And did you know that the movie All About Eve was all about Eve?
Yeah, I almost never go to movies anymore, you know? I mean, Hollywood's gotten kind of freaky.
Well, what are your go-to categories then for trivia?
Yeah, installing concrete footers, of course.
Of course. So, what about your kids? How are your kids doing?
I don't know. I never hear from them unless they want money. Dad, how you doing? I only have $50.
I see you got your Guardians hat on.
This ain't no Guardians hat. I wouldn't be caught dead wearing a Guardians.
So who you got for the Super Bowl?
I gave up on the NFL. You know that it's all scripted. Did you hear that?
Oh, you mean like the 5 San Francisco quarterbacks that went down with injuries? You mean that was scripted?
Yep.
Oh, and the Damar Hamlin thing, that was scripted?
That's right. Scripted. You know, they needed a little drama. So, you know.
Well, I got to get back here. You know, I got a lot of nobody watching. Good talking to you there, Leo.
Yeah, okay, Caster. I'll hold down the fort here for you.
Let me know if I can do anything else for you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that was the guy at the bar, Leo. Well, it is Super Bowl week, folks, and there's a lot of anticipation. You know, the whole Super Bowl Sunday has really evolved over the year into this big, major bash. I think I read somewhere it's the biggest party day of the year. I think it's kind of evolved in that way. I don't remember it as a kid being that much of a shindig, although there is one stupid ass thing from my childhood that I remember in regards to Super Bowl Sunday. High school it was, and a group of buddies and I drove down into a seedy part of Cleveland, Ohio, where they sold beer to anybody who could carry it. We bought 32 quarts of Old English 800, stuffed them in the trunk of my 69 Cutlass, and headed back to the burbs to a little Super Bowl party, which we had kind of overstocked for. But so we kind of drove down the road with all that beer in the back. So, Old English, of course, is wickedly potent, a very high alcohol content. And thus, I have no recollection who even played in that Super Bowl. And thus, it was another stupid-ass thing from my childhood. Yes, indeed. So Super Bowl Sunday is a big deal these days. You know, I've been making the case. You know, the game starts at like 6:30 at the earliest. And there's commercials constantly. More on that in a moment. And then there's this long halftime break. More on that in a moment. And the game doesn't end till almost 10:30, 11 o'clock at night on a Sunday. And, you know, everyone's wasted or close to it. And then they have to get up and work the next day. So I've been thinking, you know, why don't they change it to Saturday? Why don't they make the game Saturday night? Kick off at 9, you know. Make it a big blowout. And then, Sunday people can recover. Just a thought. But the whole Super Bowl thing has just taken on a whole entirely new life of its own. Super Bowl Sunday attracts non-football fans who are just there, for the partying and all the food. I mean, you talk about food. Most Super Bowl parties is just, munchies out the yin-yang, right? But you have a lot of non-football fans there, and you have a lot of those who think that football in general is nothing but a modern-day gladiator sport. And so they're all sitting on the sofa when the football fans are like into the game, and they're all sitting there like, just like the Romans. Those people are a lot of fun, aren't they? So there's been so much attention on everything that has nothing to do with football that it's taken on a life of its own, and thus we have had lots of cringe-inducing Super Bowl moments over the year. And an example would be some of the commercials over the years that we've seen that you just wonder, the cost for a Super Bowl ad is in the 7 figures. And this is what you got out of it? Whew, I don't know. There's been some good ones, make no mistake about it. But here's a few that we would much rather forget. In the 2015 Super Bowl, Nationwide Insurance decided to run an ad featuring a dead kid. I don't know if you remember that, but the kid's like, I'll never be able to learn to ride a bike. I'll never be able to date. I'll never be able to do this because I'm dead. I'm like, yeah, you're just capturing the pulse of the nation right now, Nationwide. Along those cheery lines, GM had this spot years ago on this unemployed suicide robot, which is basically a robot who's unemployed and commits suicide. And it's a robot, but it's like, why are you talking about this? This is a party, right? Everyone's socializing. Maybe they're into the game, maybe they're into the food, maybe they're into the spirits, maybe they're into the commercials, but not one about a damn suicide robot, GM. But not to be outdone, Bud Light once did a commercial during the Super Bowl on an upside down clown. Yes, clown walks into a bar upside down, orders a beer, and he, because he's upside down, appears to be drinking it out of his butt. Of course, he's got the costume on upside down, but the optical illusion is that the clown is drinking the beer out of his butt. And then if that wasn't bad enough, he then orders a hot dog. So Bud Light really reached for the stars with that one. A couple of other cringe-inducing commercials over the years during the Super Bowl. The Holiday Inn transgender ad. So, obviously, if Holiday Inn tried to air this today, there would be assassinations right and left throughout the corporate office of Holiday Inn. But I don't even know what the hell the purpose of this ad was. I guess Holiday Inn was doing renovations or something, and upgrading all their hotels. So they thought it would be a nice tie-in to have this commercial about a class reunion, a high school class reunion, and there's this chick sauntering around dressed to the nines, and everyone's checking her out. And then this classmate waddles up and says, "Hey, oh my God, it's Bob Johnson." So yeah, Bob Johnson from the class of '75 had a sex change or was dressing that way. And, actually maybe Holiday Inn should have just, tweaked it a bit, and then they could show it these days because, we are a pronoun nation. More recently, Jeep did this commercial called The Middle. And it was talking about the reunited states of America. And it was this preposterous thing that we all just need to come together in the middle and reunite. And this was like a couple weeks after the 2020 election, which was quite the unifying event in history, wasn't it? I was waiting to get zapped. But of course, nothing says overindulgence at the Super Bowl than the Super Bowl halftime shows. And there's been a lot of good ones, of course, but it's just so over the top, And yeah, a lot of people just watch it for that. But there's been a few over the years that stand out. The Michael Jackson performance was generally viewed as one of the best and sort of the prototype for the future of Super Bowl halftime performances. But of course, what would a Michael Jackson concert or performance be without 3,000 little kids storming the stage to sing "Heal the World" with him? Yeah, you had 3,000 kids going. That little bit hasn't aged very well, has it? Oh well. Michael is still damn talented. There was also the Black Eyed Peas, who had their run as, kind of a hit-making group. And their performance was sort of panned by the critics. But I will say one thing. The Black Eyed Peas Super Bowl performance was much better than Fergie singing the national anthem at the NBA All-Star game.
That our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star
Madonna performed at one of the Super Bowls. That was a good time to go out for a beer run. I don't remember anything about that. I'm going to guess that she was trying to act like she was 20. Just a hunch. Paul McCartney's performance was criticized as being too safe and appealing only to boomers, right? You know, that the performance should have been tailored towards, 20-somethings or millennials or whatever. And because only 20-somethings watch the Super Bowl, right? Maroon 5, they had a somewhat forgettable performance. And I can't remember the songs or what, but I do remember it just seemed like it was basically 10 minutes of Adam Levine searching for the right minute to rip off his shirt, and show off his tats as well as his tits. And then, of course, not to be denied, the infamous wardrobe malfunction with Justin Timberlake and Janet Jackson. And, here is my impression of that performance. Are you ready? Thank you. I'll be here every Super Bowl Sunday from now till eternity.
The North American Strip Club is now closed. Please finish your drinks and head to the exits.
Well, now that I have my nipple back in place, it's time to make my prediction for this year's Super Bowl between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. Philadelphia has certainly looked much more impressive in these playoffs. They steamrolled the New York Giants. They steamrolled the San Francisco 49ers. Whereas Kansas City looked very sluggish against Jacksonville. And, the Bengals game was very close. Of course, all the Cincinnati fans think they got cheated. No, you didn't. But the Chiefs kind of escaped from that one. It was very close. So the temptation, Philadelphia has all the components, right? Jalen Hurts has evolved into a really good quarterback. Very interesting story with Jalen Hurts. He was at Alabama, starting QB, led him to the national championship game, and Georgia was kicking their ass. And I don't know if Hurts got hurt or he got benched or a combination of both, but Tua came in and led a come-from-behind victory for the Crimson Tide. And that was it for Jalen Hurts in Alabama. He had to transfer to Oklahoma because Tua took his job. And he played well at Oklahoma and got drafted in the first round, but he was kind of mediocre at first with the Eagles. And he looks really good now, So, and he's got a lot of weapons. He's got a great running game. He's got a ferocious pass rush, great defense, at least against the pass. And he's got some really good wide receivers. And they added to that this year by getting A.J. Brown. So he's got a lot of weapons there. So the temptation is, they've been killing teams. So they're probably going to win. But something bothers me. I just, I'm not sold on the NFC's depth. I think the Giants wouldn't make the playoffs in the AFC. I feel very, very confident saying that. So the Eagles crushed them, big whoop, And the 49ers, how many quarterbacks can possibly get injured in one game? I picked the 49ers, and I don't know that they would have won if Purdy would have stayed healthy. But, man, it's just ridiculous. So of course they steamrolled them, and the Eagles were at home both games, which Kansas City was too. So yeah, I don't think Jacksonville's very tough either. They're getting there, but Cincinnati is, if they can just stop the whining, So I'm going to predict Kansas City in a very close game. I think Mahomes now has had 2 weeks to heal a little bit more from that ankle injury, and he showed how special he is. How special he is. He's a special quarterback. But yeah, he's the guy. So I got the Chiefs winning this year's Super Bowl. Now on to other news.
Black Friday girl.
Try it all on, I want
Black Friday girl.
baby, dropping some dope. Don't wanna stop, cause I'll never
No, not the dancing panda. Oh my gosh. More Chinese spy balloons. And this week, of course, is the State of the Union address, where President Joe Biden plans on unveiling his strategy for extracting the Confederate Army out of Gettysburg. Well, what was I supposed to do? Gosh. Now, whenever that happens, I get electric shock whenever I make a overtly political joke. Somewhere out there, Steve Harvey is smiling. And somewhere way out there, Richard Dawson is puckering up. I don't know if you remember Richard Dawson's Family Feud in the 70s, but it was hard to watch, So he had the thing, where he would greet all the female contestants by kissing them on the lips. And there was a range of reactions to this by the contestants. Most of them just sort of, yeah, all right, yeah. Some of them were kind of into it, and I'm sure Richard got their phone number. But then there were definitely some you could tell they were just like, it made them really uncomfortable. My God, that would not fly today, unless the producers forced Richard Dawson to kiss the female contestants like a fish. And we have here from San Jose, Andrea Simpson. Or not. Well, of course, the last 2 episodes we did the 100 top films of all time according to the American Film Institute. And now with the Grammy Awards upon us, it seems like a good idea would be to do some sort of top songs of all time, but it's so hard to evaluate songs because it really is totally subjective. And, I think that the Grammys are for a little younger demographic, right? So I wouldn't really have much to add about that. I mean, so that's about it for this week. Enjoy the Super Bowl. Eat, drink, and be merry. Watch the commercials. Watch the halftime show. Watch the modern day gladiator sport. And if you have anything on your mind, give a write to veryoddcaster@gmail.com. That's veryoddcaster@gmail.com. Go, whatever. I think the Chiefs are going to win. Ciao. And kids, do not try that Janet Jackson impression at home.
Walking high, fist combat, crawling in the trenches, how they hide.